Alrighty, we are about to enter the Thunder Room. Oh, what do we have here? That right there is Tiago.
How are you?
What's going on, dude?
Yeah, not much. It's just like tightening up some cables and cleaning up some stuff here. The usual,
The usual.
making it look good.
This is our boy Tiago. He has a company called Tone Concierge.
Yep.
He helps people identify vintage instruments, find amps that are hard to find, pedals that are hard to find. As you look around, he's got quite the collection. There's stuff in here that may look like a Marshall, but I think everything here is some sort of a mod. Let's see, I think these are both Hermansons. Would that be correct?
Correct.
What would the top one be?
Pretty much like all those 5 amps here, they're the Harry. Actually, the Larry.
The Larry. Okay. Yeah. All right. I know those are expensive amps that are hard to get your hands on. I heard the guy's got like a 4-year wait. Here's another Larry train wreck. Then over here, you got a whole bunch of what look to be Marshalls, but they're not. They're Mark Cameron modded Marshalls, along with some actual Camerons. I think some are, correct me if I'm wrong, some are Friedman era, some are Cameron era.
Correct.
I don't know if anybody knew that, but Friedman built them for a minute.
Yeah.
And then over here, we got my favorite. I'm going to zoom in right here. That is the Frank Levi number 34 mod.
Done by Frank himself.
And that's a 79 MK2.
Correct.
I have one of those, and I need to do that mod. We got some, I believe, original Soldanos.
Correct. The top one, it's a letter original modded. Oh, actually, the top one, it's a 91 original one from 1991. And the bottom one, it's the one that is modded by Mark Cameron.
Ah, okay. And then over here, got some really crappy amps right here. On the top, you've got a Dumble, another Dumble, yet another Dumble, and then one more Dumble. But anyway, so that's kind of a quick overview. Let me get these. That little dude right there is such a killer amp. Very cool recording amp.
Yeah.
Avert your eyes. We're going to see Tiago again. Oh, what do we have here? Care to explain?
Oh, yeah. That's actually an original Mark II C+. Second one from the top, it's a Mark II C+, with the Mike Bendinelli C++ mod. So you have C+ mode, and if you do this, then it goes into C++ mod. And down here we have a really good sounding also Mark III purple stripe. Kind of like it nails the White Snake 87 tone. It's a really good sounding amp.
And then this is my favorite sounding cab in here. What are the speakers in this?
Those are 1265, G1265.
That is the biggest sounding cabinet I think I've ever heard. Well, so we have that. We have a whole bunch of cabinets. We'll go into the details as we demo all these amps, but we're going to try Rockett products. We're going to try whatever pedals we have that might be cool. So it will not be just a promote Rockett stuff. And check these out. Pretty cool collection of rare pedals. Gotta love those old SIBs. We actually own that company now. Trying to kind of bring these back, to be honest with you, because they were so cool. Transformers and tubes inside. Big thanks to Mark Seaman from API for sending me those. And then Tiago's got a nice collection of the Pete Cornishes. A few other random pedals in there. I think I spotted a Copper Archer. It's a cool pedal. And then over here, some more Pete Cornish. But this dude's probably the coolest thing in here. It's literally like the first prototype wah for Vox. I think it was made in 1612.
This is one of the Delcaster was some of the prototypes that they built on volume pedal that were used for keyboards at the time for Vox keyboards, and this is one of them, one of the very few
Jeez,
of those.
very cool. So Tiago's got a whole host of even hidden gems. You can see that red dude stuck in the back. There's a bunch of amps back there. They're everywhere, but we're gonna slowly break them down and play through them. Hopefully you guys will enjoy. All right, we will see you soon. This is a Tweed Bassman modified by Howard Dumble. I'm going to go through each one of them, and then I'm going to have Tiago talk about them. Up top, whoop, can't operate this thing. Up top here, looks like a Bandmaster, but it is also a Dumble. It's called a Rockphonics. And here is a modified Dual Showman, which is an exact replica of Howard's personal Ultraphonics, made for Tiago. And then this Marshall here, I can scroll down a little bit, is there's an interesting story behind this one. I'll let Tiago tell it. But anyway, I'm going to go back to this Tweed and let Tiago tell you a little bit about the details.
Yeah, this Tweed in particular, it has the La Tostada mod, and what Alexander used to do was he would remove the guts of the amp and rebuild it again with his fine tuning and his personal touch. And of course, not only this one, but every amp that he does has a lot more clarity and a lot more note definition, punch. The low end is just huge, and this is one of them. It's pretty much like the best sounding bassman I ever heard.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And what's amazing about all of these Dumbles is it's like the clean notes themselves sustain like they're overdriven.
Yeah,
There's a purity. I know a lot of people who are familiar with some of the older Fenders, like Supers and stuff. There's like this almost natural chorusing sustain effect on them. I don't know how better to describe it, but there's just a clean sound that you can't get out of any other amp, and this one just takes it to the next level.
yeah.
So then we'll go up here to the Rockphonics. What was that one all about, Tiago?
Yeah, that one, I pretty much like got it from Dumble as a regular Bandmaster, and it didn't supposed to be modded at all. But Dumble offered to work on it and make sure that it was a good sounding stock Bandmaster. And he kept it for about 10 months, and he kept modding, and changing things. And one day he called me and said, "Hey, your amp is done, but I have to charge you a little bit more because now it's a modded amp." And then he told me that he had just came up with this platform that he wanted to call it Rockphonics, and that's the very first Rockphonics he ever built.
How many did he build after that?
I'm not sure, but I don't think too many. I know he built a few of those. Kenny Wayne Shepherd has one. Uh, a guy in Texas used to have one. In Dallas, he used to have a deluxe reverb with the Rockphonics. Uh, a friend of mine from GC bought one from him also on a Pro Reverb, but not many because he came up with that mod in 2008, and he passed recently, so he didn't make many amps. He didn't mod many amps a year, so I don't think he had the chance to do too many of them, unfortunately.
Yeah, that was a bummer. That was a bummer. Okay, so then this one here is the Ultraphonics that is a clone of Howard's personal Ultraphonics that he made for you. Tell us more if there is more. I may
Oh
have
yeah.
just blown the whole script.
No, it's all good. But that one in particular, it's an amp that was used on a certain recording session that I told Dumble without knowing that it was his amp. it was my favorite Strat tone of all time. And he was really proud of that. And after years of asking me which one was my favorite Strat tone, and would always give him the same answer, he offered to build that amp for me, this mod. And when he asked me how I wanted to fine tune it, if I wanted to play or anything, I just told him, dude, I just want it just like yours. And after he delivered the amp, he said, "Yeah, man, nobody have ever asked me to build a replica of my personal amp. So that's there you go. You have the very first one, and it sounds really good." And man, he was right. This thing, it's my all-time favorite amp.
We've actually had some pretty prominent amp builders come over here just to check some of these out, and even they were like, "Holy cow!"
Yeah.
They do things that you don't hear on other amps, which is great. Okay, now here's the one that has pretty interesting story behind it.
Yeah. Well, that Marshall in particular, a really good friend of mine uh, bought it in 2003, and he was at Dumble's house, and Dumble asked him to drop off a couple of things at my place. I believe it was like a few capacitors, a few Bumblebee caps. And when he drove by and dropped them off, I asked him, what was you doing at Dumble's house? And he said he was picking up an amp. And when he opened up the trunk of his car to show me the amp, that was the amp that was there, that particular Marshall. And that was in late 2003. And that day I told him that that was my dream amp, and one day I would have one. And sure enough, a couple of months ago, I was able to buy this amp from another person, who have acquired the amp from him. And it came full circle 20 years later. Found the amp and bought it, and I couldn't believe that it was the same amp that I saw being delivered and 20 years before.
Well, the amazing part is that you got that thing for what, $299?
No. Crazy. It was 264.
264. Yeah, that's a hell of a price for a Dumble.
Yeah. Well, I overpaid a little bit, but
yeah,
they're great amps. Well, the cool thing about those amps also is even the Marshall that has been played quite a lot for the last 20 years still has the original tubes.
Oh, really?
The same tubes that Alexander tested and put on the amp, they still tested new, and they still sounding amazing. And of course, I didn't change anything on my amps, also the ones he built for me. And they still have every single part, including the tubes, the same way as Dumble delivered them.
Yeah. We'll include emails and everything if you want to email Tiago, ask him any questions about this stuff, but it's certainly not a very common thing to have access to these kinds of amps. So it's been great for Rockett on the design side. And this is your guy. If you need questions answered about vintage or amps, he knows pretty much everything there is to know. And I try to stump him on a daily basis. So anyway, all right, we'll see you guys soon.